In the beginning of Parshas Acharei Mos, the Torah goes into incredible detail regarding the avoda, the sacrificial service of the Kohen Gadol, of the high priest, on the holiest day of the year of Yom Kippur. And the Torah tells us that, of course, the central moment of that day was the Kohen Gadol's entry into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, into the Holy of Holies, the area, the little space which contained the Ark, the Aron, the space in which the Shekhinah itself, the Divine Presence itself, resided. And the Torah makes it very clear that the Kohen Gadol only goes into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, only goes into the Holy of Holies one time a year. One day, one time, on Yom Kippur, in a very specific and prescribed manner. And the Torah says as follows. This is in Perek Tes Zayin, Pasuk Beis, chapter 16, verse 2. Vayomer Shema Moshe daber al Aaron achicha va'al yavo b'chol eis el HaKodesh. Tell Aaron, he can't come into the Kodesh. He cannot come into the Holy of Holies whenever he wants. There is a very specific way to enter into the Kodesh. And I've always found this pasuk incredibly intriguing, because one would have thought that the Kohen Gadol should get to enter into the Holy of Holies every single day. After all, again, he's the Kohen Gadol, he's the high priest. First Aaron, then his sons. And although there were times that we had high priests, Kohen Gadolim, who weren't of the highest moral caliber, but when we think about the office of the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, we imagine one of the holiest members of the Jewish people. And so I would have thought that such an individual be granted access to the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Holy of Holies, if not every day, at least a couple of times a week. And if not a couple of times a week, at least on Shabbos. And if not on Shabbos, maybe Yamim Tova, maybe special occasions. But no, the Kohen Gadol only goes into the Holy of Holies one time a year. And perhaps the Torah is teaching us a very dramatic and meaningful lesson. The Holy of Holies represents the pinnacle of spiritual accomplishment. The Holy of Holies represents the most intense experience of inspiration, of closeness, of connection. But yet the Kohen Gadol only experiences that once a year. Perhaps to teach us that even within our own spirituality, as much as we would love to be perpetually inspired, as much as I would always love to feel connected, it doesn't really happen that way. Spirituality is a series of peaks and valleys. And sometimes I feel incredibly connected. And sometimes I feel incredibly inspired. And sometimes I'm moved spiritually. And other times it's like, it is what it is. It's fine. I feel like I'm going through the motions. I'm doing what I have to do. But I don't really feel all that much. And I think it's interesting because a lot of times we're taught that the goal is to always feel. The goal is to always be connected, almost as if the goal is to always be inside of the Holy of Holies. The goal is to always be in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. And I've always had difficulty with this, because I myself don't live in a perpetual state of inspiration. I don't go ahead and constantly feel connected. I wish I could say that every davening was uplifting and meaningful. That every single time I daven the Shemona Esrei, I mamish felt like the Rambam says that I'm ka'omid lifnei HaMelech, that I'm standing before the king, that I'm talking to the king. I wish I felt like Rabbi Soloveitchik said, that I was entering into a dialogical connection, a dialogical covenant with the Ribono Shel Olam. I wish that every single davening was like that. Just like I wish every single time I put on tefillin, I actively felt like I was binding my physical prowess and my intellectual prowess to the Ribono Shel Olam. Just like I wish I felt that every single Shabbos was me'ein olam haba, was a little taste of the world to come. I wish I felt this way all the time. I feel that way sometimes. Sometimes I do. Sometimes when I daven, I feel connected. And sometimes when I do mitzvos, I feel uplifted. But other times, I'm doing what I have to do because it's an obligation upon me. And perhaps what the Torah is telling us is, it's okay. Because even the Kohen Gadol, he didn't go every day into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. He didn't experience that incredible and overwhelming moment of spiritual intimacy each and every day. He had it once a year. And I'm sure that once a year experience carried over into a number of other days, a number of other experiences. But the Kohen Gadol didn't live every single day in the Holy of Holies. He didn't live every single day in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. And if he didn't live every single day in the Holy of Holies, in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, then I'm not going to either. Then, bepashtos, on a simple level, I'm also not always going to feel inspired. I'm also not always going to feel connected. I'm also not always going to feel uplifted by every single aspect of my Yiddishkeit. But yet, and here's the incredible part, I'm still going to keep doing it. Why? Because when I daven day after day, even if not every tefillah is a meaningful, uplifting experience, I'm exhibiting a commitment to the Ribbon Shel Olam. So Baruch, I'm showing up. I'm showing up Shachris, I'm showing up Mincha Ma'ariv, I'm putting on Tefillin every day, I'm giving tzedakah, I'm doing chesed, I'm learning your Torah. And some days I'm on, and some days I'm connected, and some days I feel like I'm literally living with you in the Holy of Holies. And sometimes, to be honest, I feel absolutely nothing. But lest you think that that represents a spiritual shortcoming or failure, Va'al Yavo Bichol Eis El HaKodesh. Even the Kohen Gadol doesn't live every single day in the Holy of Holies. Even the Kohen Gadol didn't live a life of constant and perpetual spiritual intimacy, inspiration, and connection. Even the Kohen Gadol had his peaks and valleys. If the Kohen Gadol has his peaks and valleys in his relationship with Hashem, in his inspiration, then of course I am going to have them as well. But the real litmus test of my personalistic holiness is even when I'm not feeling it, even when I'm not connected, even when I'm not in the Holy of Holies, do I still show up? And as long as I continue to show up for every davening, and as long as I continue to show up for every opportunity for learning, and every opportunity for mitzvos, and every opportunity for chesed, that ultimately shows HaKadosh Baruch Hu that even if I don't feel it, the commitment is there. Halavai, we should be zocha to many beautiful moments of spiritual intimacy and connection. We should be privileged to have many moments when we get to reside with HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the Holy of Holies, in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. But even in those moments when we feel a little bit distant, when we feel a little bit disconnected, let us find the strength to honor our commitment, show up, and be present in our relationship with Hashem. Wishing everyone a wonderful day.